What's up everybody, Thomas here. We're back working on the 1985 Merkur XR4Ti, and today we're going to be doing the timing belt on it. So last time I kind of left the timing belt because I wasn't 100% sure what I was supposed to exactly do when replacing it. But now I am 100% sure. I watched a video, check out Gear Jammer 2300's channel. He has an excellent video on timing these vehicles, or not vehicles, but this engine, the 2.3 turbo. So yeah, we're just going to jump right into it. Alright, so here we are. This is what the timing belt looks like right now. This is before we do anything. I've taken the cover off and I've taken a couple other things apart. And right now, see how this little mark is lined up with that center mark there? That means that this is timed correctly. So, and then also on this, on the crank pulley here, there's also another timing mark, and that lines up with the marks that are on the plastic cover, which I've already moved. So our first step is going to be removing the crank pulley, and then we're going to be removing the belt itself. And this here, this little guy, is the tensioner. This is the cam gear, and this is the distributor gear. Alrighty, so let's take that off. Alright, well, my first thought for what we're going to do to get this thing on is we're just going to blast it with a gun, see if we can get a gun in there and break it off, or break it loose anyways. Is this thing gonna fit? No, not quite. Will this have enough juice to break it loose? Let's try it, I guess. What size is that even? Alrighty guys, so I got the correct socket for it. It's a 13/16 Imperial. And it's a 21 mil, metric. So I just pulled it off with my 3/8 gun. I'm actually surprised that worked. So that's good. Just grab the washer I dropped. And yeah, so now we can just pop this pulley off. And this comes off. There we go. And this little guy goes on. It's a cover for the timing belt, so it's very important that we put that back on after. So I'm just going to put this bolt and this pulley off to the side for now. So now we can see. So now we can see down here where the crank pulley was. That right here on this crank gear tooth here, there's an arrow marking it, and there's a notch in this part of the I guess it's part of the crankcase or a back cover or something. Anyways, what we can do is we can loosen the tensioner and pull that back, and then once the tensioner is off, or the tension is released from the belt, we can then take the whole belt off. So let me grab something to do that. So first I'm loosening the tensioner holder so that it holds the tensioner in place. So that way we can move it. There we go, nice and loose. So now that that's loose, we'll grab something to loosen this. It's an 18, probably closer to a 17 actually, but this should work. Yeah, let me grab a 17. So we cracked the 17 loose. It's tight. All right, now. So I cracked both the bolts loose. Now we just need something to pry the tensioner in the direction away from the belt, so that way it will loosen it. So we need a pry bar or something. I should have something here that will probably work. Let's see. This hammer will probably work. Yes. Now, I don't know if you guys can see that, but you can see the tensioners moving and releasing the pressure. However, we just have to have the 14 and 13 mil ready to go, so that way we can tighten it down once it's in the release position. All right, so the tensioner's moved. We need an extension for this thing. I have returned. I brought back the new timing belt as well, so we're going to use this. And yeah, so here we go. Let's get this all done. Let's get this tensioner out of the way first, though. All right, move the tensioner. Tighten the bolt. And there we go. You can now pull the old timing belt off. Alright, so we got the old timing belt. It's not in the most horrible condition. A few marks on it. Pretty worn. Etc. Anyways, so now what we want to do in order to make working on this thing a little bit easier in the future, especially if you have to do the timing belt, is this crank, this cam pulley, and this distributor pulley. I can't see it, but anyways, this cam pulley with this marker and this pulley right here, this distributor pulley, which doesn't have the marker, are actually the same pulley. They just reuse the same one and turn it around backwards. So what you can do is you can actually spin this, turn this pulley 180 degrees, and it will look exactly the same as this. And then you can set it so that the mark on here lines up with the mark on here, and then you have to reset the distributor. And then it makes it insanely easy to time this vehicle. So that's pretty good. So we're gonna do that. And then, yeah, keep working. We'll put the new belt on. So this is the old belt. Where'd I put the new belt? This is the new belt. Oh. This must be the new belt. Yes, this is the old belt. You can see it's got a little bit of rust in the thing, damage to the tooth there. Really, it's not in bad condition, but might as well take the opportunity to replace it. So, next thing's next. Let's flip this pulley 180 degrees. All right, so let's jam this bolt out. Looks like it's a 17. There we go. Just had to hold it in place. Then we'll take this pulley off, or gear. And then see, right there. What does that look like? Just like the other one. So now we'll put this one on in this direction. We have to line up the little tooth here, or the keyway with the other keyway. Then we can tighten this bolt down. Then we take this. Now that's lined up. Make sure it's totally lined up. It's different sized bolts. That's interesting. Well, drop test on the socket there. See, probably 19. You line that up. Then after you line that up, you take the dipstick. Where's the dipstick? Right here. You unplug it because it's got an electrical connector attached to it. Right? And you take your dipstick. Kind of interesting. And you just line this up. And provided it goes through the middle, of each marker, through the middle of each thing, middle of here, the middle of there, and there you now have your distributor and everything else all lined up properly. So now let's put this away. Plug it back in, and let's get to work. So now I'll kind of clean off this tensioner a little. It's got a bit of dirt on it. Not a huge deal. Just make sure it's all clean, decent enough. We can now put the new timing belt on. Alright, so when we're putting the timing belt on, what we want to do is we want to take all the slack and put it on one side of the belt. Specifically, the side with the tensioner on it. So what we're going to do, is we're going to start at the bottom and put it on from the bottom and pull it tight every time we go around a gear. So it's on at the bottom. You want to make sure there is no looseness in the belt on the one side. So I'm gonna pull it tight and pull it tight. Make sure that's tight. Right. Tight. There we go. Then we pop it on. We pull it over. Oops. Sure. There we go. Sure it fits over all the gear teeth properly. Right there. 1, 3, and then I think we got it. Yeah, okay. And yes, you want to make sure that's on all the way properly. Can't be off by half a gear or half a tooth. That simply just doesn't happen. And yeah, so just slide right on. Must still be off a tooth somewhere. Let's see, maybe down here. There we go. As you can see, there's no slack in any part here. So let's see, does it line up? So we'll test that. We can just use something that's fairly long and straight, like this. Stretch it, put it through here. Yeah, it works pretty well. There we go. So yes, so next we of course have to loosen the tension on We have to loosen the tensioner back up again and let it fly. You can see it's going to kind of press itself in. I'm going to give it a little extra. Just to make sure that it's nice and tight on there. One moment. Once you get the tensioner loosened up, now I'm gonna just give it a little extra. There we go, make sure it's really tight. Nice and tight. Then we tighten up the spring again. There we go, nice and tight. And just double check that the locking bolt thingy tightness. Nice and tight. Perfect. Now double check that this is tight. Yeah, that's nice and tight. And now, theoretically, we should be able to spin this whole engine around once or two rotations, and the marks and everything should line up perfectly again. So let's put this timing belt guide back on. Put the crank pulley back on. Throw the bolt in there. Tighten it up. There we go. Now let's turn it over and see. So, all right, so that's about one rotation. Marks are on the far side now. Right about there. Oops. There we go. So there we go. And as you can see, the marks here and here, they do in fact line up pretty well, fairly closely, etc., etc. So let me grab the cover, the timing cover. And if we put that on there, we should be able to see where our timing's at relative. Anyways, the point of the thing, this whole exercise is, so this mark here lines up with this mark on the bottom, and the mark on the crank pulley lines up with this mark on this little notch right here. So if all those things line up, number one, having this mark and that bottom mark lined up makes it a lot easier to time the vehicle whenever, wherever, however, whatever you need to do, basically, right? And having this mark and that mark times up will allow you to set the base ignition timing, and which is what we're going to move on to resetting the distributor, because we have to reset the distributor now in order for it to be on number 1 cylinder at TDC for ignition, or else the vehicle will not start. So let me install this plastic cover on the timing thing here, and then we'll move on from there and do the ignition. Alrighty.